Cienfuegos is forever honored in this Benny Moré song. Cienfuegos is the city I love the most, says the late Cuban master in this tribute to this town. The city remembers him just as fondly. One of the biggest attractions is Moré's statue. Those who visit cannot get enough. Cienfuegos is known as the Pearl of the South, known for its pretty colonial buildings. A town founded by the Spanish in the early 1800s and settled by the French. Take Paseo El Prado and you'll see them lined up along the way. The Palacio de Valle is one of the architectural jewels here. From here, you can walk to Punta Gorda, a getaway for Cubans who are looking for a little rest and relaxation. They use Cienfuegos Bay for relief, but the heat doesn't stop these guys. BC taxis, as they're called, are always on the move.
Aquí montamos todo tipo de turistas.
Here, we take all types of tourists on a ride, says Eddie Gonzalez, who has been pedaling 19 years.
Interesting.
Yes. This group is from Belgium.
Ahora se hace un poco más. Sí, ahora hay un poco más de turistas.
We're seeing a bit more tourists, typically from Italy, France, Spain, and now Americans, who tip well, he says.
Me pagan sin, como decimos los cubanos, sin regatear.
There's a Cuban saying, he says, sin regatear, meaning they never haggle with what we charge and usually give you a little more. As far as U.S.-Cuba relations, he says it's about time. You're already seeing the results, says Felix, who is younger than Eddie. During high season, he says, they earn between $5 and $10 a day.
¿Y eso es suficiente para vivir la vida?
No, para vivir.
Enough to live, he says, to survive. Back in Parque Central, the main square, you'll find tourists from different countries. We were lucky because we found some Americans. They all agree and hope the changes will help the Cuban people. This group is from Denver. Some of them are teachers.
You know, we can lift the embargo and we can start hopefully having better ties.
My hope is that they are able to express themselves in the best way that they feel, and that they determine that, as opposed to the government determining how they speak.
More access for the people to information and things like the internet.
They think that'll lead to more exchange of information so people from both countries can get to know each other, and Cubans can maybe demand more of their government. Boxing is huge here. The boys start training young.
Adelante. Atrás.
Jose Alamo has been training boxers for 20 years. He's trained hundreds of young boxing talent.
En todos los eventos nacionales, internacionales, es la que nos da la medalla olímpica.
When we compete nationally and internationally, he says, boxing is what brings home the medals. He goes on to list all the championships Cuba has won, despite what he says is the lack of training materials.
No tenemos lo que es los guantes, no tenemos cabecera, no tenemos lo que es el medio.
We don't have gloves or other things needed for proper training.
Así con ese problema a veces nos presentamos bien en los torneos grandes.
Yacer Aguila, one of the well-known boxers here, says even with the lack of training materials, we continue to do well at tournaments. And with better relations with the U.S., their trainer says,
somos imbatibles, somos los mejores del mundo.
We won't be beat. We'll be the best in the world. Here in Cienfuegos at the Jose Marti Plaza, you feel the pride of the people, but you walk a couple blocks down the street and you see the struggle. Beyond the touristy spots, you'll find Cubans trying to make a living.
¿Qué haces para ganarte la vida?
Yo, boteo.
We found Yoel Lopez at a street corner. He's what you call a botero, basically a cab driver who uses his own car. When we ask him how the cabbie business is going,
Bien y mal.
Good and bad, he says.
Hace falta turismo.
We need more tourism. he does admit he has seen a spike in tourists coming to Cienfuegos. More and more, he's seeing Americans. They give you tips, he says, walks us over to show us his breadwinner. A bright orange, old 80s Russian car he bought 3 years ago. And when asked what he likes about the car, it runs, he says. And as soon as he's done showing off his car, he gets back to that corner, back to work to make enough to put food on the table. We ask him one last question. They're improving U.S.-Cuba relations. It's for the better, he says. Things have to get better. The province of Villa Clara, which some still remember as Las Villas, is where you'll find the city of Santa Clara. Like other Cuban cities, it has a colonial style with a central square. Except this town is buried deep in revolutionary history. Felipe takes us to a major tourist attraction, preferred by those who sympathize with the revolution. It's a monument, a memorial, a museum. Cubans know it as El Tren Blindado. Story goes, at mid-revolution and fighting, dictator Fulgencio Batista sent an armored train carrying soldiers and weapons. On December 29, 1958, guerrillas led by revolutionary Ernesto Che Guevara attacked and derailed the train. Fighting followed, but the rebels captured Batista's soldiers. Che, despised here in South Florida by Cuban exiles, is a hero to those who believe in the revolution. His tomb, also in Santa Clara, is a major attraction, but we wanted to see a hidden attraction. So we leave town and head north. We're told we can find it in a town called Sagua La Grande, in the outskirts of a tiny place called Mariana Grajales.
Eso no tiene problema.
After asking around, we get to this dirt road, but our van cannot keep going. Luckily, we meet this farmer who knows exactly what we're looking for and says he'll take us there. Our photojournalist Mario Alonso and I follow him. He says people always come here looking for the site. We keep walking on a dirt and rocky road, nothing in sight but fields. Our guide says the entrance is this way, so we keep following. Everyone around here calls it the Russian warehouse. We walk through more brush, more overgrown vegetation. A couple steps more, and we are there.
It took us about 2 miles to get through this wooded area, finally find the structure that locals say belongs to the original site where the missiles were placed.
This looks like a bunker or a storage facility, part of a bigger complex, part of a bigger story of when two superpowers clashed.
Shall be the policy of this nation.
In October of 1962, President Kennedy tells the world Russia is installing missiles in Cuba.
Run for the nearest shelter, but run.
13 days of terror followed what became known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. Our spy planes took photos like this one that show in this place, Sagua La Grande, a launch site was built. This is likely the warhead storage bunker.
Most of the structures in this wooded area are falling apart, but if you walk around, you can find some bricks. Some of them still even have letters on them.
The farmer shows us a cement stand. You can see broken bricks on top of it. You get closer, you can see red letters, but cannot make out what they once said. Inside, we find a colony of bats in a beehive. Part of the past, now close to 60 years old. Coming up,
La Bahía de Cochino.
a stop at the heart of the Bay of Pigs invasion. It was in these very same waters. We'll visit the port of Mariel, where thousands of Cubans fled in a massive exodus. And later, how hustling is part of life in one town of Pinal del Rio.
Want to see more? Head over to local10.com and visit our special section. An interactive map will connect you to Cuba's 15 provinces, full of extra footage, interviews, and slideshows, exclusively on local10.com.